Okay, question 57. Recipe calls for 2 2/3 cups of flour to make 2 regular batches of cookies. Shiloh needs to make multiple batches of cookies. So represent this situation with an equation. All right, so the first thing that we have to remember is the only equation that we know in our life right now is this idea of y equals kx. And we talked about that yesterday. All right, and we know that this k is always our constant of proportionality, or another word is it's our unit rate, or another word is this is our constant multiplier. So what I need to do is I need to find out what k is in this problem. I need to find the unit rate. Well, remember what it said, 2 2/3 cups of flour to make 2 batches of cookies. So here's how I'm going to think about this. I know that 2 and, whoops, that's not right, that 2 and 2/3 cups of flour is going to make me 2 batches of cookies. So I need this to be a unit rate. So remember this, unit rate is where one of them becomes a 1. I don't want to know about 2 batches. I want to get myself to 1 batch. So in order to do that, you've got to think to yourself, how am I going to get myself to 1 batch? So here's the idea. I always write down my true statement, 2 2/3 cups of flour for 2 batches of cookies. Then I can start talking to myself about, okay, how can I get myself to 1 batch? Well, I can just do 2 divided by 2. That will give me 1 batch. That means I also need to divide the top by 2. So now I got to do a little bit of math here. So reminder how I divide fractions. The first thing is I got to make this top heavy. I'm doing the work up here. So this is 8/3 divided by 2. So reminder, dividing fractions, keep it, change it, switch it. So this idea, I keep it, so this stays 8/3. I change it, so I change my division to a multiplication, and then I flip it. Well, this is really 2/1, so when I flip it, it becomes 1/2. So a little review on dividing fractions. Keep it, change it, flip it upside down. Now I just multiply fractions. I'm going to cross cancel here. 2 goes into 2 once. 2 goes into 8 4 times. Now multiply across. 4 times 1 is 4/3, which becomes 1 1/3. So I know that 1 batch is going to be 1 1/3 cups of flour. All right, now here's why we had to do all that. So let's get this off of here. So it wants me to write an equation. This is the equation that I always use. So the k is my constant of proportionality. It's my unit rate. Well, my unit rate in this is 1 1/3. So my fraction or my equation is this. Y equals whatever my unit rate is times x. Well, my unit rate in this problem was 1 1/3. So y equals 1 1/3 x. All right. So the good news about this is now if I want to know about 2 batches of cookies, I just multiply this by 2. If I want to know about 5 batches of cookies, I can just multiply 1 1/3 by 5. So we had to get ourselves to a unit rate so that we can work ourselves up to whatever batches we want. But remember, this is the only equation that I know, and k is always our unit rate. That's what we put in for this. All right, so let's see what else that we need to write down. I want to erase everything. Let's get rid of this. And let's see, so represent this with an equation. We did. There's my equation. Y equals 1 1/3 x. So what is the constant of proportionality? Well, remember, that's the k. You know, k is our constant proportionality. It's our constant multiplier. It's our unit rate. A bunch of different names. It's all the same thing for k. So our constant of proportionality for this one is 1 1/3. It's that number that we multiply everything by, depending on how many batches we want. If we want 10 batches, we multiply this by 10. How can you identify an equation? Because it's always right before the x. It's always that number that we're multiplying the x by. So part C, How can you use an equation to determine if this relationship is proportional? Well, the way we can tell is this is our equation that's always proportional. Y equals some number times x. If it's set up like this, then we always know that it's going to be proportional. And since this is, this idea that I'm always going to multiply a number times x, if that's all I have, then this is proportional. Hopefully that helps.